Hi, my name is Matt Dawson. I am in the AMS class with all of you, and I'm doing my research topic on ecotourism in Appalachia with some focus in some areas I am familiar with. So today I'm going to do something a little bit different, and I'm not really going to throw a ton of factual information out at you. I'm actually going to give you more of a personal dialogue and narrative about my experiences in going to Appalachia and experiencing some of the really cool things that Appalachia has to offer as far as ecotourism and vacations. Things like rafting, camping, hiking, snowshoeing, skiing, climbing, bouldering, you name it, you can do it. Appalachia is the place to go. The way I'll probably do this is I'm going to kind of share some of my personal stories with going to Appalachia and experiencing the beauty that it has. Probably down below I'll have some facts and things that'll pop up, so maybe pay attention to those if you do want to learn something about the ecotourism industry and things like Red River Gorge or the Great Smoky Mountains or Fayetteville, the New River, in even some stuff like Snowshoe, West Virginia, the second highest mountain in West Virginia. So pay attention down below, and that's kind of where you'll pick up on some more of the more factual information. And I will also probably put a slide at the end and present some of that information as well, so you can actually maybe learn something from that angle. One of my first experiences with the Appalachian ecotourism industry was in 2009. I was on spring break. Yes, I'm a returning student. And so I was about maybe 21, 22 years old, and we decided to go to Red River Gorge with a group of guys down to Red River Gorge. I had never been before, but it was the coolest thing I had ever done in my life as an adult at that point. And I didn't go to some place like Panama or whatever down in Florida and drink my head off. I actually went to a place and I had to work for my enjoyment because we had to hike 5 miles, I believe in total, probably a little bit more, and we were totally unprepared. It was March and we didn't have any backpacking gear. We just had school backpacks and sleeping bags strung up on them. I think I packed like a 4 or 5 pound can of beef stew, which was absolutely delicious, but it weighs like 10 pounds. And I ate that, and then I think somebody else actually hiked in a cooler the whole way, and we just took turns kind of tag teaming it. But it was sincerely one of the coolest things I'd ever been to, with all of the cliffs and the actual Red River down below. And we had the whole place to ourselves. So we were to say places like Capitol Dome, which is an amazing hike. It's about 5 miles round trip. So you pull into the parking lot and you get out and you start walking and you see a little bit of, actually, you don't think about it, but there are fires in the East Coast. So you'll hear about fires in the West Coast all the time, but there are quite a few wildfires on the East Coast. And so we got to walk in and you see a little bit of a wildfire damage that they got under control pretty quickly. And you just wind through these gorges and cliffs and you see waterfalls and just this really cool southern flora. I believe once you get down to Kentucky, it's like a subtropical region, technically, or a partially tropical region. So you'll see some really interesting tropical plants. And then you eventually get just out on this flat plateau and you just keep walking, and it's just an amazing view. So it kind of really inspired me to want to go back to Appalachia more and more and more. I had been to the Great Smoky Mountains when I was a kid, but I never was drawn to it. I still have no urge to go to the Great Smoky Mountains because it's such a big tourist place, and it would be super convenient because I do have a family, but I want to see these kind of smaller, interesting areas that people don't talk about and just have an intimate experience with them. Red River Gorge is a really cool place if you've never heard of it. It's about 3-hour drive from Cincinnati. And you head down 75, get to Lexington, heads east, and it'll take you to the Red River Gorge area. It's part of the National Boone Forest, and it's enormous. You could spend every weekend there for the whole year and still have trails to hike. I highly recommend it. Definitely become prepared and do your research if you do decide to go to a place like that. Make sure you get plenty of water, you're properly supplied with food, and you know about things like poison ivy and poisonous snakes. So I've gone to Red River Gorge, I don't know, a dozen times at this point, and they're all memorable trips. And the first one is memorable, but the most memorable trip to Red River Gorge with me is when I went back with my wife, her sister, and her brother-in-law. And we basically did all the same trails I love, which is Capitol Rock, and you go back along that plateau that I was talking about before. But the most amazing part for me was I decided that I was going to propose to my girlfriend at the time, who is now my wife, and I proposed to her on the side of the cliff, and she did say yes because we're married, and no, I don't wear a ring. But the joke always is who was going to push who if somebody said no off the cliff. So it was an awesome experience, and I'm going to put a picture up somewhere around here floating around. And it was something I will never forget, obviously, but it's certainly cemented the specialness of the place for me. I did say yes, and we got married on September 18th, 2017. And in order to get married, you have to have a bachelor party or a bachelorette party or just a party, whatever. We decided that we were going to go to Fayetteville, West Virginia, and whitewater raft on the New River. Now, the New River is, I believe, the second oldest river in the world, and it runs north for most of its journey, which is unusual. So, a lot of my best friends and my future brother-in-laws at the time, decided to go to Fayetteville. So we decided to go whitewater rafting, and it was freaking awesome. You should go. It's hands down like a 6-hour trip from here, and it was the most fun I've ever had in my life. And I'm trying to track down some pictures, and I don't know if they'll actually make it into this video or not, but now it's one of those things where you go, gosh, I'm glad I did that, and I got to remember it. And you go down all these rapids, and you do what they call hillbilly surfing, which is basically you go on the back of a rapid. So you go down the rapid, and then you turn your boat around, and you start paddling as hard as you can into the rapid, and you basically end up getting sucked into the current and surfing this rapid. And it's a lot of fun. Several of us fell out of the boat, and they were a little bit worried that someone of us was going to drown, but it was a lot of fun, and I definitely want to go back, and I plan on going back as soon as I can. But it turns out a lot of people don't have the courage to do so. But it's pretty safe, and I certainly recommend doing it. Snowshoe, West Virginia is about 8 or 9 hours from here. Once you get up into the mountains of West Virginia, it really slows things down because you do a lot of crisscrossing and winding, and so like literally it's not that far away, but when you actually add in the road mileage that you're actually traversing, it does end up being pretty time consuming to get there. And also you'll probably go in the winter, so there's a good chance you're going to be hitting bad weather or snow or whatever. So it's actually an incredible place if you like to ski or you want to ski. If you're from around the Cincinnati area, you may have been to Perfect North, and you'll pretty quickly, once you learn how to ski, realize that Perfect North is a pretty small place and becomes somewhat unchallenging. So for me, we got into skiing around that 2009, 2010 point, and we started going to Snowshoe, and we would go every winter. And I don't know how many times I've been, and it actually makes you feel like you're on a big mountain ski resort, like out west or somewhere in the Alps or wherever. Now it's not quite as big, but they do get like 200 inches of snow a year, and they also make their own snow to help with that. And they've got everything the West has to offer. It's just not as big. So it's a really cool place, and I believe Snowshoe is the second highest mountain in West Virginia, by like 15 feet. So like if it was 15 feet taller, it would be the tallest mountain in West Virginia. So it's really cool. It's in a very rural and remote area. They probably bring in a lot of seasonal help from the colleges around there, but it's kind of interesting to explore the area. There's a lot of cool bed and breakfasts. We went there once, and there was an Irish themed bed and breakfast where you would at nighttime around like 8 o'clock after dinner go down and have like whiskey drinks with the proprietors, and the proprietor's husband would play on the piano, and they'd play these Irish ballads and things like that, and she would sing, and it was really, really cool. We were too young really to enjoy it at the time, but looking back now, it was actually a really cool experience that I would like to experience now. All right, I'm getting ready for bed here. I'm all cozy in the tent. Thank you for watching this. I hope you found some information about my story interesting. I hope maybe it inspired you to get out and go explore and maybe take advantage of some of the things that Appalachia has to offer as far as ecotourism, things like hiking, camping, snowshoeing, skiing, whitewater rafting, and you can probably get online and explore some of these ideas and things like that, and you could go to each state's various tourism boards and explore that way. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'll put my email in the video, and I hope some of the facts that came across the sidebar, I hope were enjoyable. Get out and explore. It's a big world. Take advantage of the fact that you live in Southwest Ohio and you can travel a few miles east and explore some of these really cool places. If you want to start out on maybe a 2-hour drive, you can go to Hocking Hills, which is east of Columbus. If you want to go a little farther to something a little different in Kentucky, go to Red River Gorge. If you want to go big, go to West Virginia, hit those rapids, hit those ski slopes. If you want to do some hiking and you got the time and the money, do me a favor and complete that Appalachian Trail you've been dreaming about, and have a good life.